everyone, it is Mykal. I am so excited to get on today and do this particular recording and share it with you all because it's such an empowering story of one of my clients, and people always are wondering what it looks like to be in a session with me, right? And I thought this was a perfect opportunity because she has such amazing news that I thought this was perfect, that I could kind of lay out what her experience was in the sessions. And with that being said, realize that everyone's unique. Everyone has different abilities to access this information. And as an example, this particular client was very visual. She saw color, she could see imagery really, really well. And some people, and I'm one of them, I'm not necessarily imagery guided. I am more of a feeler. I just know, right? There's just in this internal welling that happens and the information just comes out. So everyone's different. Everyone's experience is different in these sessions. But I thought I'd share her experience so that you can get a small taste of maybe what it's like. But really what this whole video is about is her success and her success, her achievement. Because when she first signed up to do sessions with me, she came to me saying that she had been diagnosed with breast cancer and she had her breast cancer operation scheduled just shortly after we were to be finished with our sessions together. She had emailed me a couple weeks ago, or I guess I'd emailed her asking her how she was doing. And she said they had postponed her operation, which, you know, with all the weird things going on with the COVID-19 right now, was not unusual. And I could understand that they would postpone that if they were overwhelmed with other things. But she scheduled an appointment with me and I saw her yesterday before her session. I was like trying to like peek behind the door to see how she was doing. And I did an oracle card drawing. And I started with the chakra reading cards. This is the book. Because when you're doing a lot of emotional healing, it's almost always correlated to chakras. So I love this deck because it really can give me hints sometimes about what we're really looking for, what we're after, what the root cause is. And the first card that came out was holistic health. And I was like, oh, this feels good. And I pulled two more cards and I laid them down and I didn't even look at them because I was so excited. I really was. I was like, holistic health. I mean, what could that mean for her? Granted, that was her approach, but I guess I was just feeling it really, really deep inside going, oh, I think there's really a success story here. And then I pulled three more cards from the Good Tarot from Colette Baron-Reid. And I love anything Colette Baron-Reid does. This one follows more the traditional tarot versus the oracle cards. And I pulled three of those cards. So at the end, we're going to go through those cards. I don't want to necessarily, I want to give you more of a review of what her sessions looked like. And then at the end, we'll cover what her oracle card said. But I was so excited when I saw this before I even saw her on yesterday's appointment because I just had this feeling. And so when she came into the session, I was like, how are you doing? What's going on? And she revealed that she no longer shows any sign of cancer. Like, it is gone. Gone. I mean, she's no longer having cancer. And she was so cute because she's like, she's been in the mindset so long that she has cancer. And this is the important thing to realize, that when you're healing physical illness or dis-ease, is that you have to shift your mental attitude just as much as the physical needs to recover. And she was still in the process of owning that she had recovered, that it was no longer there. And so I was really helping her, encouraging her do that. But this is her story. But she was my client. And so it was a beautiful intermingling of what we could do together to achieve her goal, her intention, because none of this would have happened without her goal, without her stepping forward and saying, I want to be healed and I'm willing to do the inner work necessary to achieve that. And she has hit it out of the ballpark, completely gone of breast cancer and free. And the beauty of the oracle cards that we did together that I read with her was about where she's going next. But first, let's talk about her sessions. So in her sessions, and I have notes here because there was just so much to cover. I wanted to make sure I got everything. So the one thing about her ability in these sessions, and everyone's ability, is we all have different ways of accessing information that comes to us in these sessions. Because while we're utilizing a guided imagery approach that includes hypnosis, hypnosis is just the strict definition of it is focused awareness, which means, and sorry, my throat is just a little gravelly today, so I'm going to grab my tea, smooth this out a bit. When you talk as much as I do every day with clients, because my clients, you know, while they're talking to some degree in the session, I'm the one that is constantly talking, and my throat seems to be going rough patch today, which is fine. It gives me a different tone, right? Different, a little bit different. All right, so in her ability was to be really visual. She could really access that information visually that when in that focused state. For me, you know, I am not as visual. I'm a feeler knower. And there are some people who hear. There are some people that are really, really visual. And it just depends on the person. And this is the number one thing when you have these kind of sessions, is that everyone, and me included at one time, would love to be visual because we want to see what they can share with us, right? But the reality is, while visual ability is amazing and has a beauty to it and a simplicity to it, there's actually a lot of depth and nuance to being a feeler knower that gives you maybe even a bigger picture than just seeing things. And as an example for that, for like her, a lot of the information that she was receiving was very visual, but a lot of it was also metaphoric. And I find this with my clients also, you know, the human mind will use metaphors in dream states, right? Now, if you've ever had dream or done any dream analysis, you're going to realize it's almost all metaphoric. And that's how they get the messages across to you. And dreaming, I mean, I could do a whole bunch of sessions on dreaming too, because there's so much value in what we are dreaming. I've gotten some of my greatest information from the dreams that I've had. And I'll give you a quick tip that the louder your dreams are, the more they're wanting you to get the information, to get the message. Anyway, besides the point, what I wanted to share was that information comes in metaphors. And so her visual information a lot of times also came, that's the way it was coming, as a metaphor. But when you're in a state of just viewing things, because when you close your eyes and you're in this focused awareness, it's almost like you want to resort to the same senses that you have when you are living your day-to-day life with your eyes open. But when you go into this focused awareness with me in a session and you close your eyes, what I would love to invite any and all of my clients to do is have a greater level of intuition that includes sight if possible, but to open all of your possible intuitive senses, whether that is visual, hearing, the knowingness, the feelings that you might feel that arise within you, all of those, and smell. Some people smell things really, really well. All of those are valid, and all of us have all of those, but to different degrees. Like I said before, I'm a feeler knower. She was very, very visual. And I find that each of my clients is completely different in their use of those intuitive abilities within within a session. So when she came to me, she identified really, I mean, right off the bat when we first started, as very visual. And I was really trying to remember as I was writing these notes, if we had talked about dragons prior to her even going into that state, because I remember the first thing that she saw, I mean, clear as day, she closed her eyes, went into this state. You know, we do different ways to get you a little bit deeper. And the first thing, though, when she started talking was that she had a dragon, like nose to nose, like looking at her, and she could see the snout. She could see his eyes. And I believe he even had like frills, you know, that were there. And while some may think that would be scary, for her, she could feel the loving energy that was emanating from this being, because the dragon energy is very intense, but it's also incredibly loving and supporting when it knows that you are stepping up and really wanting to resolve anything that needs to be resolved. That's all the dragon energy really wants to do for you, is it's going, come on, let's look at this so we can resolve it, move it out of here, and clear you up so that you can move on to your self-realization or your enlightenment. You know, some people call it ascension. Everyone has a different name, but all of them are the same, which is that we're moving into a new level of an energetic body. And literally, our DNA is shifting and changing, okay? And so the first thing that she saw was this dragon right there, just staring into her eyes with this beautiful, loving grace. And what an experience. It kind of blew me away right there and then, because, you know, I had given her, because I'm like so excited about this. Like, I'm forgetting little pieces. So before she had gotten into that state, when people sit in the chair and we go, okay, we're decided we're going in. I hand them crystals. Sometimes I do aromatherapy because, I just moved my aromatherapy bottle. But I have a bottle that I like to spritz because the essential oils can enhance your ability to connect. So a little bit of aromatherapy, give you a crystal. I have candles on, and I got a really comfortable blanket you can lay down in the recliner. So she did have at that time a crystal skull dragon. And again, I've moved all my crystal skull dragons, and I would show you one, but I don't have one here. So she had that. So she did know my affinity. We had talked about dragons a little bit because she had a dragon skull, and right away he shows up. So you can imagine she's laying there. She's all warm and cozy. She's got her crystals that she's holding in her hands, and the room smells warm and amazing. And she's got a dragon nose to nose with her right there. But she could feel the loving presence of it. And that started from day one. Now, when we go into that, after she sees the dragon, I will utilize a conversation between the dragon or whomever shows up for a client, trying to understand a little deeper about what they are there for, what they represent, what they're wanting to share. And for the most part, for this particular client, it was a very much healing energy. And what she could feel was how strong the energy was. This woman was so strong and amazing and showed up for this because the energy that they were downloading during these sessions was so strong, and she could feel the coldness. And it's not unusual for clients to feel either hot or cold in these sessions, depending on what kind of energy is being downloaded into them. But the energy was so cold, she was shaking. And I don't even think it was all the coldness of why she was shaking, because she got to the point, you know, she was just like this. Now, I want to reassure you, because a lot of people go, oh my God, she was that upset. It's not about being upset. This shaking is all about releasing past emotional trauma. So this first session, it wasn't even like we were getting into that many actual memories at this point. We weren't accessing any even specific emotions. It was literally, and this is what I asked for the first session, is let's just remove all the garbage and junk that we can the first session without even having to know what it is or why it's there. And that's what that dragon did. He was literally just cleaning and clearing all of the chakras, her energy bodies. You know, we have a physical body, an emotional body, a mental body, and an astral body, some call it spiritual body. And those four bodies are what creates our physical reality. Do you know, oh, hold on, I'm going to pause this and I'm going to go get this little toy because I thought it was cool about describing this. Hold on just a second. I didn't have it in here. Okay. So I had gotten this to do a different independent video about the concept of this, but it's perfect for this analogy here. All right. So can we see this? It's a little toy and it has all these independent spinning things. And if you look, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. If you look at this, the pink ball in the very center, to me, that is like your heart center. It's where everything really comes through. And so if you think of the pink as the heart center, and then this is your physical body, this ring is the physical body. And then you have a mental body. And then you have your emotional body. And then you have your astral or... and that's how it looks. So this outer rim would be your astral body or a spiritual body. And they all are spinning at different rates in different directions. You know, there's a lot of, it gets really complicated, but what I loved about this was how simple it keeps it. So just if you can keep the concept that we have these different energetic bodies that are creating our physical reality. And when we are asking the dragons or the elemental beings or our spiritual guides, our angels, archangels, ascended beings, our council, our higher self, all of them, to heal us, they're healing us through all of these levels. It's not just our physical body that is happening. If we have an emotional trauma that happened in this ring, it might take a while, but eventually it's going to affect the physical body. And so when they're doing a healing, they're going through all of these bodies to heal your physical reality. All right? It's really important to remember that we get wounded in an emotional body and eventually it gets stuck enough that it reveals itself in the physical body. And to heal, we kind of have to do the same thing. We have to heal this emotional body energetically, and then it's going to reveal the healing in its physical reality. Cool? All right. So when you're shaking, that is a symptom of just releasing the excess energetic emotional trauma. And this was a real epiphany for me when I read this in a doctor's book once about how they had discovered that when someone goes into shock, they are shaking, you know, they start shaking. And it had always been the habit of most emergency people who come to assist, you know, if you were calling an ambulance and they were to come and you've been in a car wreck and you're in shock and you're shaking. In the past, it had always been like they wanted to stop them shaking, warm them up because they thought they were cold. And what this doctor was talking about was how, in reality, it's releasing the emotional trauma of what they have just been through. And he had discovered that as you work through past emotional trauma, if you can imagine you were in a car wreck 20 years ago, but now you're finding that you're got breast cancer or something else, you go back to that time frame and a memory to heal that emotional trauma that got stuck in your energetic field. All right, I hope I clarified that. Now, when you are 20 years later and you are going and healing, what happens for a lot of people is they start shaking then, even because they didn't get to when it happened. Do you get that? That if they did not get to shake it out enough 20 years ago when the emotional trauma happened itself, and they're healing it in this moment, 20 years later even, they're going to do the shaking again. And this is what she experienced, a lot of physical shaking. But that's such a good thing. It's releasing that emotional trauma. Emotion, and it's one of the quickest ways to release it. All right. So that was amazing. So she really experienced the shaking. She experienced the cold. And here's another symptom that comes about in this kind of healing process is when we have been under the having all this energetic healing applied by your spiritual team. A lot of times the body also then needs to have a release. And what happens is you really need to pee. Like it's just like all of this stuff just shifts, and your body is not only having this emotional release, then it also needs a physical release. And this is something that she would experience every time. In fact, just as we would be getting really deep into it, she'd be like, oh, I really have to go pee now. And what was kind of funny about this was over the time with our different sessions, she learned to not drink water before she came to a session, but it didn't matter. Every single time she had that emotional release, her body felt the need to still have a physical release after the emotional release. And it happened in every session that we did together. So it's a really profound moment. And I will share, I've had a client one time who in just a couple hour session, he went to the bathroom like 5 times, just releasing. And so I always smile when this happens because it is a profound thing. It's a recognition. It's a confirmation of the emotional releasing that's happening when you have the physical release that's needed also. So cool. I'm fascinated by this stuff. All right. So within her session, we had all this energetic healing that was happening through the dragon realm. It was happening through her own spiritual team that was assisting us. She also connected in this with the lion energy hugely. The lions really, that Lyran energy was very, very strong, and she would see lions to the point where in one of the sessions, she actually received, like they were trying to give her name or a more true energetic name. And they had been talking about the shaman that she was, but they were like, you're the ShaMane. The shaman, but also combined it with the mane of the lion. And within one of these sessions, she could feel the building up of this Lyran energy so much that she was like, I have to roar. And she would roar and allow again, this is an energy release that comes in from the very core of you that wants to be out. And it was not only a release, it was also like a reclamation. She was claiming who she truly was. Instead of being stuck in the old ShaMane way, she was claiming the new ShaMane, and she could roar, and she had that strength. She had the energy of that type of Lyran being. Oh, it's amazing. So amazing. And I remember she even had a phoenix in one of her sessions. So again, remember that so much of this is metaphoric. So the phoenix is about existing. The phoenix lives, right? But then he, at the end of his life, he disintegrates. He bursts into flames, turns to ash, and then is reborn. And that seemed to really be the reoccurring theme within her sessions, was how she was being reborn, how she was burning away the past so that she could create a new future. And I tell you, that's right up my alley. I love this stuff. This is what I do. Heal the past, live in the now, and create the future. And she was doing this. And it was innately, like, we didn't know one another before she had a session. She just knew inside her that this was something that was compelling her to do this. And just by having breast cancer, she was reevaluating everything in her life. She was going through the Phoenix existence of having lived, having gotten stuck into her reality. Very, she was just living day after day, taking care of all of her responsibilities, but she kind of lost track of her. She had lost track of her joy, of what really brought her enjoyment and happiness. And she was just doing the same thing every day, taking care of her responsibilities, going to work, doing her thing. And she had lost track of her in that process. And by being ill, this was a wake-up call for her to say, you know what? I need to really reassess who I am and what I want. And that starts with where I am. Here I am. Where do I really want to be? And what do I need to do to get there? All right. So the emotional healing that was her journey was really pretty vast. Like the first session was all about just getting rid of the stuff that we don't even need to look at. Just that's what the dragons are really great with. And I work with them a lot to just remove the stuff that we don't need to know why it's there. If it no longer serves our purpose, let's just wash it out and get it out. I utilize singing bowls in a session a lot when we're doing this. It's because we're also working with the chakras, cleaning those up. The chakras work with this system here. If you can imagine that in our physical body and all these energetic bodies, we have this line that goes through, right? This line, and the chakras, for the most part, there's some exceptions to this, but the main chakras tend to follow this main line down our body. So crown, third eye, throat, heart, solar plexus, sacral, and root is really right down the center. And when we do this energetic healing with the singing bowls, we work with each chakra because each chakra has their own specialty. And it gives me a kind of a clue on what is stuck and what isn't stuck, because I'm also utilizing my skills of my own energetic skills of contributing to this session. These sessions are a real bringing together of my skill set as well as the client's intention. And the first thing in the session that we do is kind of connect our higher selves. So I always ask that my client's higher self and my higher self work together. And if they can share with us, the client and me, to do what is best throughout that session, and it works beautifully. All right, so her emotional healing that she went on through this process, I remember in her first session, like I said, she's been shaking. She is cold. She can literally feel like ice cubes in her chest where a lot of the emotional healing was taking place. And again, at this point, we don't even know what the emotional trauma was. And, when I utilize the word trauma, keep in mind that it can be something that as an adult, we would consider to be fairly simple. Like if as a child, you were told to, imagine a child dropping their cookie and they're getting yelled at because they didn't take care of the cookie. I can't believe you just dropped the cookie. That can be emotionally traumatic for a child. So you have to remember that it's whatever was traumatic for yourself in the moment that it was happening. And for ShaMane, she was going through this process where she felt very cold, she was shaking, but she also was talking about how her hands were so tense, like they were just like claws, but just really, really just so tense, they hurt. And so that was for me one of the first clues on looking into, okay, well, where is this coming from? And so we talk to the subconscious, we talk to the higher self, and we ask the higher self and the subconscious to reveal the component that's creating this stiffness within the hands, the soreness. And we can ask the subconscious to take her to the first memory of the emotional component that's being held in her hands that are creating this. And for her, she went back straight to a childhood memory where her father had left her at childcare. And we've all done that, right? And this is not to give anyone a guilt trip about leaving their child at childcare. It really is not. It is about recognizing that we all have wounds, we all have different needs, and that we can easily and effortlessly heal ourselves, especially as we educate ourselves and realize that it's really not that hard. But I don't remember how old she was at this point, but you know, her father walking away from her at the daycare, there had been a fence, and she had been clinging to this fence as she watched him walk away. And all this tension remained within her hands. And this was the beautiful opportunity for us to work with her own inner child, that in some ways what happens is that child that had that experience kind of like separates from the whole. It stays within that experience and doesn't move on with the rest of the who would be within the grown-up. And so ShaMane is missing this beautiful girl who in many ways has the childlike aspect of herself, because she has been stuck within this traumatic expression of missing her father, the emotional components. There are many layers to this. But within this process, we were able to reunite them, to allow this child to heal and understand that she didn't do anything wrong, and that she would be completely protected from now on, and that she could reunite with the older ShaMane, and that they could work together in being the perfect ShaMane that they could be. And it was such a beautiful experience to have them come back together. And this is a really common occurrence in these kind of sessions where you can work with the inner child. But it's definitely not the only way to work with past emotional trauma. I really rely on the subconscious to reveal to us the most appropriate memory. I don't know the memories. The subconscious is the one that brings them forward. And as the client, it's their responsibility to just kind of share with me what's going on and what they're feeling and what the experience was like. And then we work our way through resolving that. So for her, she was able to reconnect, reintegrate this child aspect into her, which, you know, allows her to have that childlike existence in her adulthood that she probably was missing up to this point. I don't want to speak freely for her, but that's usually the experience, is that when you reintegrate your child aspects, you regain the childlike aspects that they have that you were missing, literally missing, because they were stuck in that realm of emotional trauma. Oh, and once she went through that healing, her fingers were able to relax. That tension, that stuckness of that trauma being in her fingers had been released. That is just an example of what we do. It's a very healing process. And so throughout her sessions, you know, and this is really common, to have a lot of different kinds of emotional feelings that need resolution. And for her, you know, we went through a process of grief and guilt and loss and fear, self-love, and learning how to really put herself back into the forefront of what her decision-making process, because a lot of times we are always making decisions based off of what others want, or what others need. And the reality is, if we take care of ourselves, then we're more than happy to take care of others. But if we're always putting other people first in what they need and what they want, then you're depriving your own self, your own core, of its own level of love and reassurance and rejuvenation that it needs. And she walked through all of these sessions so beautifully, so fully. She was so engaged in all of them. And she managed to really just warm my heart in how she embraced all of these things and allowed them to be integrated with such grace. Now, in our last session that we just had, like I said, we did this oracle card reading. And I just was so... I don't do oracle card readings in all sessions. It's one of those things that I just kind of, if I feel it, if someone wants it, I'm happy to do it. And like I said, before I even met her for our session, I pulled these cards. I did it before the session. But I was so fascinated when she came in. I was like, I just really want to see what they're sharing. Because what's coming through these oracle cards is really a message from her higher self to her about her experience, about what she is going through. I always call it walking the path, her journey of life. And so we did this oracle card reading, and the first one was holistic health, which really gave me a clue that something important had happened. And so she gave me the news that she didn't have cancer anymore, that they couldn't find it. They've taken away the surgery date. And then the next card was about relationships. And when I saw this, I was like, this is about the relationship with yourself. It's great to have relationships with other people, but you have to take care of yourself first. And she has learned this very important lesson of putting herself first for her decision making and about what she wants to do. And when she came in, she was talking so excitedly about all the things that she is kind of envisioning. She's had this time off with the COVID-19 thing, and she is kind of revisioning how she wants to do things going forward. She's literally putting plans into place about shifting where her priorities are and what she's making her priority. Now, when she saw this, she saw a butterfly, and she had worn a butterfly to the session. And I agreed with that also, in that the butterfly is the metamorphosis, just like the phoenix is. It is changing from the old into the new. And so this card really represents both the relationship with herself, but also building a new relationship with her new self. And then this third card in this deck was clarity, because she has achieved clarity. And it is only with achieving this clarity that she can move forward. But she had to do this. These were in order. Remember, holistic health. She had to do this first. She had to step forward and say it was her intention to figure the emotional component out, and then take charge of her health. Intention first. Then she had to do the work, the relationship between herself and working through these different emotional components. This is what she did. She worked through all these different emotional components that came up in each session. She did the homework. She did everything that she could possibly do to embrace the idea that if she could release this emotional trauma, that it would affect her physical well-being. And by doing those two things, she received clarity. I love it. I love it. Okay, so that was the first deck. Then she had 3 cards from this other deck called the Good Tarot. And the first one on that was Star. And the message with Star was about her own inner glow. That we are, you are a star. And your glow it starts with that inner circle. Again, we could go back to this thing that keeps falling apart on me. This, where you are your own star. That's really, even in this analogy with this little toy, this is the star in the galaxy, right? You are the star. And she's glowing throughout her galaxy. And as she glows, as she is shining, she's sharing her experience, which is why I'm talking about her on this session. I rarely talk about clients. I've had other clients who've had great successes like these, but I've never really talked about them. But for her, it was about sharing. It was about sharing and demonstrating about how this is possible. That if she could do it, anyone could do it. But she shone, her star is shining. So it not only affected her, but then it affects everybody else that's within the radiance of her star. And so her role that I feel is to share this story, to inspire others about how we can take control of our health and our well-being, and we can find the clarity that we're all looking for. I tell you, the number one thing I get from clients is that they are confused and they are unsure and they're not quite sure which way or what direction to do or go. And for her, she gets to be the star about sharing how she achieved her clarity. And then the next one was love. And so check this out. I know she was just so excited to see this, and I was too. So throughout all of her sessions, the Lyran energy and the lions was so huge within all of them. And here is the lion again with her, represented as this woman cuddled up with the lion and love. Because love, it really is the answer to everything. And not the platonic love, but the true universal energy of love that heals. It's the energy that comes into our bodies and allows our bodies to remember themselves. It allows our cells to remember their own consciousness so that they know how to recreate themselves in true health and true love. Because it's only when the cell gets mutated that it's not a pure cell and that it deviates into a cancerous cell. It is with love that you heal and that you exist. I just love this picture. Isn't there such great peace within that picture? So beautiful. So beautiful. And then the last card was Page of Air. Now, when I look at this angel, this being with these huge wings, I see success. I see someone who has declared their own sovereignty and their divinity in complete health. They are spreading their wings wide with freedom, with health, with achievement, joy, prosperity. This is success. Success. It's just amazingly beautiful. And that is her. And I want to just, Page of Air, because it said something in the book here that I thought was really apropos, but I don't remember what it was. So new ideas, a theory not yet proven, curiosity, new focus. And so this really also called into her redirection of reassessing where she is and what she wants to be doing and how she wants to tweak that in the future. So it's not only success, which is what I see. Again, she gives intention, she shines, she loves herself, she finds that connection. And then she has the success. And then she can move forward into her next, whatever she wants to create, which gets back to the creatrix effect, right? If you ever notice on my YouTube page, it says the creatrix effect. It's because we are creating our own world when we take charge. And the effect is this. The effect are these wings spread wide and freedom. Don't you want that for yourself? I know I do. That's amazing. Amazing. And so in her last session with me yesterday, she had a couple metaphors that I wanted to share. We did more emotional healing, and this is really common when you're working at emotional healing. There's layers to it. You get through, the really easy outer layer, if you imagine layers of an onion, the easy layer that's easy to take off of an onion. And then as you go deeper and deeper and deeper, you find more components of things that could be healed. I've been doing this work for 20 years. I am still healing myself. It's really common, but that doesn't, just by healing with what she did, she's already shifting and changing into the new ShaMane that she wants and is. So even though it's an ongoing process, you make such a huge shift, it just gets better and better and better. But she had a couple of really amazing metaphoric pictures that we just absolutely love that I want to share. And one of them, again, her lion showed up, and he really, to me, represented a larger aspect of her. Like this lion and her were just like the same being. It's just a larger aspect of her. And it was really about her taking her power back, reclaiming her life, releasing the old past emotional trauma that needed to be relieved. I'm stuttering now. Released, you can say released, transformed, transmuted. It just needed to be taken off. But this lion in her session, the visual that she got was he was really shaking his mane. Have you ever seen a cat? You know, they've been rolling around in the dust or whatever, and they shake it all off. And this lion did that for her in the vision. And she's like, he's literally telling me to just shake it off. And whatever it is to shake it off is whatever is bothering her, or even more importantly, to shake off this diagnosis that she had of breast cancer. And they gave her a quote about that, which is, they were like, it's part of you, but it doesn't have to be you. How gorgeous is that? Like, there's no doubt she had it, and it's still part of her experience, but it doesn't have to be her. That she can shake it off and move forward into creating this new way of doing and living her life. I also loved at one point, she could literally just feel, she said, I feel like there's a palm on my face. And they were just telling her how good she was doing. The reassurance that they give you is just phenomenal when you connect with your spiritual team. They are so reassuring. They're so supportive. There is no judgment at all. It is all about just assisting you in finding the easiest path to your own joy, to your own divinity, to your own sovereignty, to your own expression of what you want to do. Okay, and then there was another vision that she had. She would go through them fairly quickly, and I'm always like, I'm trying to figure out the metaphoric of this. She saw all these window panes being put together. And why I want to share these with you is because I want to share the metaphoric behind the scenes meaning of them. Because when you're just seeing a lot of window panes that are trying to be put together, and she was trying to describe this, and it's tough because all these different things are happening. But she's like, all these window panes, it's like they want to come back together. And so I started questioning her on what she felt. If I said window pane, she's like, well, it's like glass. And I was like, all right, well, when you say glass, what is that? How would you describe glass? Not necessarily that glass, but if you heard the word, it's a free association game. If you heard glass, what do you think of? And she's like, crystalline structure. He's starting to see where we're going here. And I said, well, the metaphor that I'm seeing here is that she is receiving this whole new crystalline DNA structure, and it was downloading into her, and it's reuniting herself to her own divinity. It's reuniting her true higher self into her physical being. And literally that's what happens. Like if you were trying to explain to somebody when you didn't have the words, what's happening when you get this download of the crystalline DNA structure, it just made perfect sense to me that it would be all these different crystal or glass windows realigning, reconnecting. And she used these words. They're like realigning. It's like they're bringing it back together. But she really couldn't see the bigger picture of it. And that's the beauty of having someone facilitate a session, is they can kind of, especially with the experience that I have, see a metaphor a little bit faster than maybe you can yourself. Not to say that you can't, because you can. It's certainly the way I started. God, my hair today, I'm sorry, but I mean, I'm definitely missing the hairdresser aspect of COVID-19. Anyway, so I love that metaphor of how the crystalline DNA was coming back into her, restructuring things. And the beauty of the crystalline DNA is that you heal so much faster. That's a little secret. You heal so much faster. The body remembers itself so much easier. And if you don't know, what we're going from is a carbon-based DNA to a crystalline DNA. Then she saw another vision of these different faces morphing over one another. And these were faces of both humans and even animals, and old and young, and complete diversity, from every different part of the world. And they would just morph into one another, one after another. And she said it was almost psychedelic by, how quick and fast it was going by. And when I felt into this, my interpretation of this was they were demonstrating to her the vastness of who she truly is. Like, it felt like we had tapped into the Akashic records, and they were just giving her an overview of all of her different existences in a really short, quick film that could have almost felt overwhelming to her. But it was really clear and to the point about all these different beings. And again, when I asked her to feel into it, there was lots of love, lots of reassurance within the experience for herself. And then as they moved away from that, the lion, she saw the lion head. And have you ever seen the pictures where they take an individual picture and then really make it small and take all these tiny, tiny pictures to create one big picture? That's what she saw as the lion's head. And each of all these different individual beings were tiny little pictures within the one big lion head. And it really reiterated my interpretation of that all of these different beings that were being shown to her were a conglomeration of the greater her of the lion, because we've already established that the lion really is the higher aspect of herself, or at least the lion energy is. And so when you're working metaphorically, they're like, all these pieces make up the whole. And I just thought that was so beautiful, because when you see those kind of imagery, you do not forget that you are not just this one person. You're not just this one physical being. You truly are connected to so much more than just yourself. And so I really, really love that. Throughout all of her sessions, the messages were so similar, and she was always being very loved and appreciated. They really encouraged her to be the new you, the new her. And, higher selves can be really kind of bossy sometimes. So when they say, get busy with a new sense of who you are, they really do. They're like, come on, let's go be the new you. You've cleared out all this old stuck energy that no longer served you. Now you're free to really express yourself in a new way. And they're really encouraging her to do that. Remember the shake the dust off, the lion shaking his mane, and really shake it off. Shake that old stuff off, the old stuff, the old you, the old way of being, the old way of doing things. Be the new you. Go into that. And my favorite quote, it's part of you, but it doesn't have to be you. She gets to identify with who she wants to be. And she's cancer-free. Oh my gosh, she was such an amazing client. And, I get to participate in someone's journey like this, and I'm beyond honored to do this. But she is the one. This is her achievement that she was able to accomplish, starting our sessions together with breast cancer and ending them with a clean bill of health. And that is what is possible. It gives everyone hope that it's possible for them too. what you are dealing with. And we all are dealing with different things. We all have things to overcome or challenges that we are being faced with. And I love the dragon energy because it's all about just, they are there for you to identify it, to release it, to transform it, to transmute it, and get on with life. They want you to be happy. They want you to be free of this stuff. And they want you to be enjoying life, embracing life, to being the creatrix, so that you are, playing with your imagination. And don't give imagination a bad rap. This is where it starts. Creation starts in the imagination. We would not have dishwashers if we did not have an imagination. You got to start in your imagination and allow it to play. Allow yourself to think about what would be cool in your life. It's the only way you're going to bring it in. And they're constantly, your spiritual team is constantly there assisting you, guiding you, that when you clear your energetic field of all the gobbledygook of the emotional trauma, you hear it so much clearer. You feel it so much clearer. Here's an example. Again, same client, ShaMane. She was telling me that she had always watched, I think it was CNN. It was one of the TV news channels on a regular basis. She would watch one show in the morning and 2 shows at night. And she had it brought to her attention that, that can kind of be negative energy. And she kind of rolled her eyes and going, yeah, whatever. But she did stop watching it. For whatever reason, whether she listened, she was listening to her own intuition, it doesn't really matter why she did it, but she did. She stopped watching. And the interesting part of the story is that she went back after a month or 2, and I don't remember if she turned it on or she saw it at somebody else's house, and she started listening to it, and she was like, oh my God, I can't watch this. It is so negative. They harp on the same old stuff over and over again. And she could feel the difference from not watching to watching. And she had to turn it off immediately. That is when you are becoming in tune with your own intuition, because your own intuition will only support loving, I'm getting tired. Your subconscious and your higher self and your spiritual team will only support you in a very, very loving manner. They do not judge. And they don't even want you to listen to stuff that doesn't resonate in that same realm of love and acceptance. And so after having worked through these sessions, having released all of these emotions that no longer served her, her intuition, her ability to assess what felt good to her had become really finely tuned. And after not listening to such negative energy, low-level energy, and then she went back to it after having achieved a higher level energy, she really was, it was completely turned off. She had to turn the TV off. And she's like, I'll never go back to watching them because I can feel what it does to me now. She's become much more sensitive to what is good and what is not good for her. And that is the beauty of where we're all going on this journey of self-realization. And, whether you call it self-realization or enlightenment, some call it ascension. This is ascension in the body, which means that we have to live through it. We have to figure it out. And the more we can clear up our energetic body, our emotional bodies, and heal our physical selves to regain our empowerment of our sovereignty, that's why we're here. So let's go out there and do that. Thank you so much. And I want to give such a huge hug and thank you for my very, very special client, ShaMane, because she was willing for me to share this story with all of you because she wants to be that star. She is the star shining for all of us. She has to start at the very core first for her but then her star gets brighter and brighter the more she cleaned herself up energetically and emotionally. She's so bright now. And her ability and her options are so unlimited now. I am so excited to see where she goes. And maybe, you know, in a couple years, we'll learn more about where she has gone and what she has managed to do with her new clarity. Anyway, thank you, ShaMane. And I want to thank all of her spiritual team. I mean, I can really feel that lion energy right now. I want to thank that Lyran energy and the dragons for assisting us through that beautiful, beautiful sessions that we did together. So if any of you have questions about sessions or what I've talked about, please do not hesitate to let me know, because I'm so happy to answer questions and get more clarity for you on what you want to achieve. What would you do if you could find clarity and move forward? What do you want to achieve out of your life? Let's do it. I'm so happy to assist everyone and anyone on their journey and to watch their achievements through your own intentions, because you can do this. Absolutely. Thank you. Namaste, everyone.